this week's episode, we visit the Lode Miners Memorial, the Royal Flying Doctors Museum, and enjoy watching the sunset at the Living Desert and Sculpture Reserve. Welcome back to Your Girl Wild. So far, we have stopped off in Mudgee, Goulburn River National Park, Coonabarra Bran, Narrabri, Lightning Ridge, Burke, White Cliffs, and now we're on our way to Broken Hill. If you think about the Outback, then the first place you think of is Broken Hill, a silver ore mining city dating as far back to the 1880s. Although mining plays a large part in Broken Hill, the place is more than that. It has modern art scene and all the set amid a sprawling desert and landscape, and it's Australia's first heritage listed city. It has also been the backdrop to many films and TV series that have been created in Broken Hill. Jeff Domain is a well-known local artist in these parts, and his art reflects the outback country. This prominent sculpture in town represents the flow of the Darling and the impact of colonisations to the traditional people of this region. On one end we have the strength of the traditional owner of this land, and the other the colonial settler. Between them both, arms entwined, that's the vessel. It was constructed from river gum and copper from the disused laundry coppers. The story poles were completed by the Aboriginal arts and cultural practices. Each student researched their own design and represented it by carving an image into red river gum poles. We're staying at the Broken Hill Racecourse, and we are pleasantly surprised. Showgrounds in general get really bad rap, but this is our third stop at one, and we have found them really good. The facilities here are new and spotlessly clean, and in the mornings you get waken up by the sunrise and the clip-cloppeting of horses galloping around the track. Unfortunately, due to the underground water system, you can't peg any awnings down, but they do supply you with water containers to tie your guide ropes on. Today we're off to visit the Lode Miners Memorial, opened in 2001. It is poised dramatically above the city and celebrates the life and work of more than 800 miners that had tragically lost their lives. The line of Lode is one of the world's largest ore, silver, lead and zinc that has made fortunes in this remote outback city. How sad. Look at all the different people that died from lead poisoning. All those. Walking through the monument, looking at all the needless deaths from mining is heartbreaking. Sadly, some of these deaths were children as young as 7 years old. What is tragic is how many died from lead poisoning and asphyxiation. We are on our way to visit the Royal Flying Doctors Museum that is based next to Broken Hill Airport and is still a working flying doctor service and has been doing vital work in remote areas in Australia since 1928. was founded by the Reverend John Flynn.
The only way that people in the bush could get a telegram was through the flying doctors. And typically the teleprinter would go off, so the operator would tear it off, jump on the microphone along the lines of 8KU Binra Downs, we have a telegram for you. So the people at Binra Downs station would turn their speaker up, as would everybody else. Absolutely no secrets in the bush. Everybody knew everybody else's business. It was also the way the Department of Defence was letting people in the bush know from Second World War and subsequent wars that loved ones have been killed in action. Now when you think about it, as tough as it is, it's the only way it could have been done. And this was particularly tough on our operators because they knew all these people. To have to read out a telegram that Bill's been killed in action was pretty horrific. Your next door neighbour, however, would hear that call, they would jump in their car, come across as quickly as possible, CWA and all the support network would spring into action as well. If I had asked you guys when you first walked in here who was Ned Kelly, I reckon I'd get a 100% success rate. If I'd asked you who was Alf Traeger, you'd probably all look at me all blank. And yet the contribution that Traeger made to Australian society was a damn sight more than what Ned Kelly's ever was. Just to show you how clever this man was, our very first radios, all operating on pedal powered using the Morse code key. Now he would set up an outpost, he would teach people Morse code, but by the time they come to use it, they'd forgotten it. So the solution is you go back to Adelaide, you get an old typewriter, you pull it to pieces and modify it, so when you type, you then transmit in Morse code. So that is probably the world's first ever keyboard. It is not a typewriter, it's a way of sending dots and dashes through a radio network. Very, very clever man. He couldn't receive in Morse code. I've no doubt had voice not been so close to being discovered, he probably could have sorted that problem out as well. A lot of people ask us what's it like to be a tour guide for the Flying Doctors, and we always tell everyone that the easiest job in Australia, because all we have to do is talk about the $20 note. So on the $20 note we have Reverend John Flynn. He was the founder of the Royal Flying Doctors, and when he as a young padre first hit the Outback, they basically had to travel by a camel because in 1910, 1920, Outback Australia, there were no roads and camels really were the ideal way to get around.
Today there are 23 Royal Flying Doctor bases across the nation with more than 2,191 staff and thousands more volunteers, and they're all on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The Broken Hill base alone covers 640,000 square kilometres of outback and has 3 Beechcraft King aircrafts. As one of Australia's oldest bases, Broken Hill was chosen as the location for filming the much-loved TV series Royal Flying Doctor Services.
That communication room is fake. That pilot's room is fake. Yeah, that's where you've seen a lot of that footage. When they had that set up as the communications room, it was better than the real thing. So much so that our staff in our communications room wanted to move. So we've had got legs up this year. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Even the Queen visited Broken Hill in 1954 and broadcasted a message to Outback listeners from this very site. It is reported that it will cost upwards of $21 million to keep the planes in and team in the air. There is federal funding, but the Royal Flying Doctor Services relies on bequests, sponsorships and donations that help purchase vital equipment. The interactive museum and the hangars were absolutely fantastic and very thought-provoking and well worth the visit. And of course the money for the museum goes towards the Flying Doctor Service too. The Living Desert and Sculptures was created by 12 international artists in 1993. The dramatic giant sandstone sculptures adorn a trail through the centre of the Living Desert Reserve on Sundown Hill. It is a magic spot with sweeping views of the outback landscape. The awe-inspiring works are worth experiencing at all different times of the day for their changing moods. Though we're here just before sunset, and I think this experience will be pretty hard to beat. Considering COVID has made people keep away in droves, it was pretty busy today. Next time on You'll Go Wild, we're off to Menindee Lakes, and we rescued 2 fishermen stuck out in the middle of the lake.
No, but it'll be harder than you think.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and share.